Good day. Thank you for joining me again for the weekly Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast. And thank you for sharing. Please keep those comments coming to the YouTube channel. I'm Franklin McKnight. Now let's start with the newspapers. The Sunday Gleaner's main story is asking, where are the children? At the height of the pandemic, 120,000 of them were unaccounted for. They weren't showing up for any form of instruction schools were putting out. Tyrone Reed reports that months into face-to-face, some 27,000 children are still missing from the classroom. And the Sunday Gleaner reports that some of the money put aside to go yard to yard to search for and re-engage the children is still unspent. And that's a disaster. Corey Robinson, Garrett Davis Jr., and Albert Ferguson contribute to the various sides of the missing children's story. Hail to Claire Grant, the hard-working and thoughtful leader at TVJ, whose success at obtaining her doctorate in business administration is acknowledged in a full-page advertisement in the paper from her stable. A story about the shifting foundation in the economy comes from the business section of the Sunday Gleaner, where we are told that Jamaica is to import 5 times the amount of molasses it produces this year. Indeed, the 120 metric tons to be imported this year is up 50% on last year's 80,000 tons imported. Jamaica's 2 molasses manufacturers are to produce about 24,000 tons compared to the importing 120,000 metric tons as rum demand increases and sugarcane limps along. There are several other interesting stories, including trouble in the process of appointing a principal at Jamaica College. The Observer leads with a story about a woman, Natalia Dennis, stabbed 30 times by her ex-lover and now out of hospital and rehab for a month. She says since November last, when she was nearly killed, police have not visited her to take a statement. She's afraid as her attacker is still out there. The attack is painful and the treatment by the police, as she states it, makes the wounds raw. Check out also a story of Orlando Cole, a Jamaican who left this country at age 11 and is now Lord Mayor of Leicester, the first black to be so elected. That's a man who was told at school in England he was never going to make it. And Herbie Miller in The Observer does a fine tribute to Jimmy Tucker, who passed last week, days after another creative giant, Trevor Nairn. The Observer also celebrates the achievement of Diana Macaulay in being regional winner of the Commonwealth Short Story Prize. Last week, Monday, on what has become a rather diminished community consciousness workday in Jamaica, National Labour Day, doctors at the Bustamante Hospital for Children put in some volunteer work in helping out children who had been waiting for surgeries since COVID-19 set in. There, as in hospitals across the world, frankly speaking, elective surgeries were set back because of the strain of COVID on the staff and facilities, and also because of dangers that would be involved in procedures concerning children with COVID. Frankly speaking, nearly a dozen doctors, many of them who were not rostered for duty that day, participated in the surgeries, mostly involving hernias. A similar and broader effort took place at the Sentence Bay Regional Hospital, also involving surgeries for Labor Day. Their activities were titled Labor with Love. Surgeries there included tubal ligation and hernias. The hospital also conducted a blood drive. Here is Dr. Tanya Hamilton Johnson, Senior Medical Officer, speaking about the effort at Sentence Bay Regional.
My name is Tanya Hamilton Johnson, SMO Sentence Bay Hospital. It's Labor Day 2022, and that means we're actually excited about doing 2 projects that we started in the year 2019. We focused on one project was blood drive. As you would have known, blood can be scarce. We use about 100 units of blood per week at St. Anne's Bay, and what we found was that the demand is greater than the supply, and so therefore we are encouraging everybody to come and donate blood. And so today we put away a special day to volunteer the aspect of donation and to encourage as much persons to donate blood, including staff. Additionally, we decided to also look at the backlog surgeries. We are happy to say today that we were able to achieve doing 20 surgeries. I must thank my staff who volunteered their services to put away a day where we could focus on doing these surgeries. We are happy because we have now cleared 20 additional persons out of that backlog list. This is why, and we continue to serve, we continue to do other community outreach, but this is one that I always look forward to. We mean to do this year.
That was Dr. Tanya Hamilton Johnson, Senior Medical Officer at the St. Anne's Bay Regional Hospital. Frankly speaking, these are not the days when community participation and volunteerism are big in Jamaica. The Labor Days, with tens of thousands of people from hundreds of communities turning out for community work, are gone. Sadly, perhaps never to return. But those who did give service to the community on the day this year, with or without recognition or notice, truly deserve commendation. So, as I mentioned last week, Mandela Park in Halfway Tree, St. Andrew was a national project for Labor Day. Work was done there involving representatives of national institutions, including the JTF, National Solid Waste Management, and so on. And the Prime Minister and Leader of the Opposition were numbered among those giving service. It is there that Prime Minister Holness admitted that the park does not do justice to the name of Mr. Mandela. We have been saying that for some time. Mr. Holness said it was too small and a new space is to be sought as a park to which Mr. Mandela's name is to be attached. Frankly speaking, I do hope that the space in Halfway Tree continues to be kept as a better green space. It's not really green now, and I hope that it is not paved over or left as a dust bowl and a mud bowl for public passenger vehicles, as some have already suggested it should become. The problem with Mandela Park is not just that it is too small, not at all. Frankly speaking, the size is not the problem. It is a space hemmed around by disorder and nastiness. The chaotic and illegal parking by the taxi operators, the untrammeled illegal vending everywhere, and the stench from urine. Even if Mr. Mandela's name is no longer associated with that space, frankly speaking, it still leaves us with too much tolerance and appetite, including in the government, for the chaos and disorder attending most of our public spaces in Jamaica. Now to Jamaican perspectives. So Elkanah Rule has been talking to us about how, going back to the middle of the last century, 1950s and 60s early, Jamaican society handled the dead. So after the burial, the night. Here's Mr. Rule.
And it's now had their own brand of celebrities, men and women who have distinguished themselves in the art of performing, in these settings.
Yes.
So provisions had to be made for these entertainers though, and also others attending. And this consisted of bread, hot coffee, hot chocolate, and an enormous amount of white rum. What? And nine night without whole heap of white rum? No, sir, because that's exactly what some people were coming there for. The entertainers, night singers, they had to be first primed up with an amount of rum to get them in the spirit. And as they got into the right spirit, the singing began. So later in the night now, they would start sharing out the coffee. Huge kerosene tins were used to prepare the coffee, the chocolate, and the other hot drinks. entry. Fry Sprat made its entry. So that became a part of the arrangement. The singing would get hotter and hotter, and the troublemakers would get drunk, and maybe in some corner sleeping, and the younger people would be gone, leave about a dozen or so of the people who are adept at singing and really loved these occasions.
And that would go on. That would go on until what time? What time would that go on until?
They go on all night, and sometime at sunrise, they will be still there singing. You wonder what kind of stamina they had. Those who were leaving, they could not tell anyone that they were going away, because they said that the duppies would always be present, and they would hear and follow them home. So a rule was that no one leaving a night should ever tell anybody that I'm gone, I'm leaving now. And sometimes a single soul was there humming, just petered out. One person there humming until it just stopped. There was a right that each citizen of the community was entitled to, and if it were not done, then people would look disrespectfully on that particular family.
That's Elkanah Rule, author and educator. Now, in one of his books, one called King Marauders, he dedicates an entire chapter to 9 Nights. It's hilarious. Last week, I highlighted a story carried in the Gleaner of the young, brilliant Jamaican college athlete, Javon Blake, who had, because of his brilliance, 40 colleges to choose from, and is going to one of the best to study molecular and cellular biology. We had some interesting responses. Here's one from a colleague journalist, and it's read by Janelle Christie.
Thankfully, we had that wonderful story of the JC student to lift our spirits. You know what disturbs me though? There's probably a 99% likelihood that he will not return to Jamaica for many reasons, including our lacking the capacity to absorb him meaningfully, career-wise, when he's finished. Then there's the fact that he would be earning far more in the USA or Canada than back home in Jamaica. And then there's the possibility that his tough inner city upbringing might have scarred him so much that he will want to leave all of that behind him as he seeks to enjoy the benefits of a comfortable living in a first world country. Of course, the downside of that, particularly in the United States, he will be immediately confined to second-class status.
That's Janelle Christie reading a response from mainstream media journalists to the Javon Blake story. What are your thoughts on that? Migration. To Outlook. Thanks to the Registrar General's Department, RGD, for reaching out to me last week following my comments about the lack of service and the frustration I had reaching them by phone. I'm grateful to the CEO to learn that his team is committed to service above all, and that they're seeking a new responsive telephone system, as the one they have now is failing them. Meanwhile, I was told by 2 different viewers that 2 companies or entities that do give fantastic customer service include the Firearm Licensing Authority, FLA, and Apex Medical Lab, Ocherios Center. Please keep your responses coming and place them on the channel. I want to know which companies are giving really good service in Jamaica. I'm not done with services and want to be informed also by your experiences. That's your Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast for this week. Thank you for sharing this podcast. Keep your comments coming to the channel, and if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. Until next time, I'm Franklin McKnight.